Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to be chatting to author Owen Quinn. How are you, Owen?
I'm grand, buddy. What about yourself?
Not so bad. How's your new year been so far?
Yeah, do you know what? Busy.
Good.
A lot of writing, a lot of articles. A lot released another. When I released one book, and I'm releasing the second book before the end of the month. So
Fantastic.
it's sort of like now non-stop at the minute, to be honest.
That's brilliant. That's one thing I wanted to start off with is you seem to have built up a big catalogue of work at this stage. So how many books have you written?
Do you know what? I didn't realize this until the other day. What I don't have is copies of all my books. So I went out to Amazon the other day and went, right, get one of each, and
Yeah,
we're going to do some promotion photos and stuff with them.
yeah,
So we've got three in the zombie blues books.
yeah.
We have 10 in the Time Warriors books. And in the Time Warriors books, we've got two sets of variants. So book five, Venom, there's two covers to choose from.
Yeah.
And then in a book called Only the Dead Get Off at Kimling and Other Stories, there's three variant covers for that one because a friend of mine gave me, he says, pick one. And I couldn't. I just thought they're all really good. And I just thought, well, let's do with comics. Let's do a few variant covers and see what happens. So it's about 13. Number 14, 15, 16 are being worked on at the minute. So
Fantastic. And how many years have you been doing this now?
it's actually, let's see, Dublin Comic Con was the first 12, but 13 years, 13, 14 of
Fantastic.
doing it sort of seriously
Yeah,
as compared to when I was younger and coming up with ideas and stuff and writing it on the old typewriters. Like the
yeah.
electronic typewriters, not the other ones you see in Murder She Wrote. Um, and then going to the typewriters go. Then you go to the when you make a mistake and you can't really erase it, and it's
Yeah,
that was just nuts in them
that would be a
days.
nightmare for
And then
me.
you got a wee computer, and then you got a wee computer, and then you were flying. But by that stage, you were like out living life, meeting girlfriends and stuff, working, buying houses. So it sort of gets sidetracked for a while,
Yeah,
but it's always sort of sat there. So after I'd met somebody and settled down, had a kid and stuff, um, decided about 13 years ago, right, we'll really go for this
yeah.
and let's do it because it always sat there. It's sort of one end thing. I think you would agree with this. It's if it won't let you sleep. The
Yes,
story won't let you sleep until you get up and
yes.
write it or do something. I
I've
mean, I've
had
done that many.
yeah, I've
I
had
did it the
many
other night actually.
I've had many a
I
sleepless
couldn't
night
sleep.
because I can't stop thinking
Yeah.
about the story.
So you're either up to all hours writing it, or you're trying to get the sleep. Go right. I have to be up for work at 7,
Yeah,
and this thing is in your head, and you have to get up and do it. And it actually happened the other night as well.
yeah,
So it's just mad the way, and you can't really describe it to people. It's sort of like something that's known at you,
yeah,
and you have to get up and do it. And so
absolutely.
even you sort of when you're looking at, oh, I've got a good job, or well, I've enough money to keep me going and pay the mortgage, blah blah blah, but it's still there in the back of your head.
Yeah,
So it was always my dream to write anyway, professionally full time. But I never realized how such a hard road it can be because there's a wee thing called real life that gets in the way.
yeah,
And it's a constant. You keep going. And some people will say, oh, you keep going and your dreams will come true on top of the universe. Sometimes it doesn't, but at
yeah,
least you can say you tried. At least you can
exactly.
say you tried.
That's it. There's
Or you
nothing.
might be Vincent van Gogh, get famous after you die. So all these books are sitting here. And they'll be carrying me out the front door, and then somebody go, oh, here, what's this? How much million do you want for that? Yeah, typical.
So, was there anything in
Typical.
particular that inspired you to actually give writing a go professionally?
Uh, to be honest, I was actually thinking about this earlier on when I was waiting on the lift. I was stone cold because you know what, it's the night of the
Yeah,
storm, so it's freezing outside.
yeah,
I was actually thinking about this. I know I've been writing since I was a young age. My first memory is my primary school teacher in P2, I think. I wrote a story about lambs in a field and the sun's shining and blah, blah, blah. And she said it was that good you put up in the staff room. So I was always writing in stories and stuff.
yeah,
Um, and then been a lifelong fan of Doctor Who. Always want. I made the mistake everybody makes. I want to write for one thing and one thing only,
Yeah.
Doctor Who. So I literally hand wrote a story out, which is very good, which will be coming out as the Time Warrior story, just to say, but
Yeah.
in handwritten. And I was very, very considerate. And I drew the cover for the Target book. Well, he did everything for them. And then they sent it back saying, I'm sorry, we don't read handwritten scripts. And I went, okay. So
Yeah.
I just went, right, okay, I'll do my own stuff. And a part of it too, and I think the older I've got, the more this has become more relevant is I'm tired of watching crap.
Yes.
I'm tired of watching remakes. I'm tired of watching poor remakes.
Yeah.
Um, Nothing. There's not a friend of me and my best buddy were going. What are we watching this week? And you're sort of struggling to find something. And if they do a remake, you're sort of looking at it going. I think the whole cinematic thing at the minute is gone. There hasn't really been. I mean, Werewolves come out and The Wolfman came out, and I was really looking forward to them, and they were both terrible.
Yeah.
So that was part of that from younger. I want to write what I want to see on the screen, what makes me excited, and what makes me excited may not excite somebody else. But the where you go on that one is you get your books. You don't want the sci-fi people. What you want is ordinary people. Do what Billy Connolly said. You don't want the big comedians on the stage. You want the ordinary person who makes you laugh, who sits in the corner, will never be famous, but he's the funniest thing you ever heard in your life.
Yeah.
So if I can get ordinary Joe blogs, and I've done it to a certain degree because of the feedback I've gotten certain things. I just need that projected to a wider audience more than anything else.
Yeah.
So that was the combination. I want to see what I want to write and share stories. I want stories, and this is going to sound so corny, but it's honestly hand on heart. I want to reach people
Yeah.
because the stories they don't have messages, but some of them will be about. For me, it's sci-fi with a heart. You can write a story about big monsters coming across the mountain like Starship Troopers, and that's it. There's no motivation. But when you give your monster a motivation that is not what you expected, or they come into a situation you're in space. Star Trek and Doctor Who did it like for years and years, still doing it. Um, like the old racism episode of Star Trek where somebody was painted one half of their face was white, the other half was black, and they hated the other person because the other side of their face was black and the other face was white. So it was that sort of template. I mean, some of my stories are about bullies, unrequited love. We've just done one on assisted suicide. What's the other one? Therapy, loss, grief. And I think for me, the older I've got, the more I've lived, the more people I've lost and loved. All those experiences suddenly change your writing,
Yeah.
and they always end up somewhere in a story. I mean, one of the latest ones is the assisted suicide, as I said. And do you know what that started off as? A lizard man in a lighthouse. And I just thought, how does that start? I thought, what are you going to do with a lizard man in a lighthouse? It's actually a real place. It's off the coast of France, and it's an old lighthouse,
Yeah.
which I can't remember the name of typically, but it's in a part of the sea that is so dangerous. It was abandoned in about 1994, 1991, so
Wow.
it's solar powered. Nobody lives in it. It's a Arios, if I'm pronouncing that right. It's just off
Right.
France, Arios. Eroise.
Yeah.
And I just thought, why would a lizard man? And it's that you know what I'm talking about. It's that progression. Why would a lizard man be in there? And
Yeah.
how did he get there in the first place? And what about the lizard man that was in the swamp in Louisiana that was seen that you always see on those unsolved mysteries?
Yeah.
And I went, and then the connections went. I know he wants to die. He's going to ask his best friend to help him kill him.
Yeah.
What would you do in that situation? So it's sort of exploring things,
Yeah.
or like bullying. What are the effects of bullying for me if I suddenly find myself in a sci-fi um, scenario?
Yeah.
How does that impact me as a person and reflect on our people? So that was the first book called The Survive, First Footsteps, and the story called The Survivor. So for me, it's getting into it's if I can connect with you and you go, I was bullied, I love somebody that didn't love me,
Yeah,
a friend of mine died, I lost, so it's getting that connection,
yeah. So
and hopefully,
for you, does every story for you start with character? When you're planning out something new, is character your starting point, or do you start with plot or theme?
um, I, it's a mixture, to be
Yeah,
honest. Somebody a friend of mine will send me a drawing, and I go, okay, I know what I says. Look at this. I would work. How could I use that in a story? Or I'll see something on the Google feed.
yeah,
And the best example of that would be The Wolves of Chernobyl. That's the book that's coming out. And it was an article I read about the way nobody lives in Chernobyl.
yeah,
It's just the animal kingdom has sort of reclaimed it. So the wolves and the bears and everything had went back in, feral hogs. They find that wolves and dogs, through the exposure in Chernobyl, and now have a resistance to cancer.
yeah,
So I went, and I just looked at my, there's a story right there.
yeah.
There's a story right there.
You
Or
never
you're
know
looking
where
at,
it's going to come from.
yeah, you just don't. I mean, there's times I would think, um, what right now we're sitting at 43 stories for the Time Warriors. So it's got its own mythos built up.
Yeah,
So the stories bounce off there. You think, oh, well, if that happened, that happened.
yeah,
But a lot of mine would be Google, or I'd be sitting thinking, or
yeah,
just thinking of different scenarios. Like
yeah,
one I've just written there. It's not really. It's not for this book. It's coming, The Wolves of Chernobyl. It'll be the next one. It's called The Meat and Dreams. So it's Freaky Friday, but the guy is a little person and he swaps his mind into one of my characters'
yeah,
normal sized body, and you sort of think, how did that work? So if your body's used like memory muscle, if your body's used to being a little person, how would that throw you off in a
yeah,
normal body? Because you're going for something. Basically, what it is that in the future, the art of writing, the art of painting, imagination is gone. It's all AI. It's all keyboards, and nobody knows how to write a letter or draw a painting. It's all been lost, and he is one of the last few people that want to bring it back.
yeah,
So it's sort of then things happen. But it was sort of you're sort of thinking to be different. You want to make your villains different. If they're going to eat you, why do they want to eat you?
yeah,
Is there a reason? So it's all that sort of thing, really. So it's not. Sometimes, as I say, it is something I'll see. It'll be something somebody says. It'll just be an idea I have. I mean, when I was in the gym, right, and because I'm now on this fitness program,
right.
haven't got leg, and I was sitting on a machine, one of them arm machines, and across the front of it, all these letters, these messages were coming, and I thought, what if an alien restaurant, for example, had somehow linked into a gym and were controlling you sublime messages. So you're saying a bit like They Live, they'll say fitness is good, and it'll say a sublime message would be eat many donuts.
Yeah,
And then he, at some point, he'll steal you. So all these people are going missing, but nobody realizes they're going missing, and just wee things like that.
yeah,
But it's so to me, it is weird. It is weird, but I think you're probably the same. You just don't know where it's going to come from next, but you're glad when
absolutely.
it does, and you manifest it into that book.
Yeah. So about the Time Warriors, can you give us a general
Yeah.
premise and what could people expect if they pick it up?
General premise is a scientist on another world um, discovered the key to time travel, but the military wanted it. He didn't want the military to have it. So he went underground, continued his experiments, but he was found. On the day he was actually going to test it and throw himself into the time vortex, the soldiers stormed it. There was a massive gunfight, and it caused the machinery to explode, sending him into a temporal vision and setting out a shockwave across the planet that literally eased it to death. So there's a space station that the military were using called the Juggernaut. So
Right.
all they could do was try and beam as many people up as possible, completely random. So at the end, out of so many millions, there was like 1,400 or something left.
Yeah.
So nowhere to go. But Varen, who's the main protagonist, had a vision in the vortex saying this was his destiny, and he had to find a green and blue planet out of 9 system. And that would be the darkness was coming, and that would be the last battlefield between good and evil. So jump forward to finally find Earth, integrate in because look just like us. He decides to stay on the Juggernaut because he feels like it's his fault it happened. It's his responsibility, and he doesn't deserve a life.
Yeah.
Wanders the planet, learn about humans, blah blah blah, and then all sorts of things happen one day when he meets 3 young people who are also descendants of the Zarabans. So you don't know who a Zaraban is, but a Zaraban knows who they are because at 18 they get a racial memory of everything that's happened so far. So Varen then teams up with these things. It sounds a bit Doctor Who-ish, but it's more a team,
Yeah.
an ensemble, like V, rather than
Yeah.
these are the big three in Star Trek, or the Doctor and the Companion. But it's these 3 people, and he learns from them, having been alone for so long, and they learn from him from this amazing experience, which is both good and terrifying at the same time. Because not everything to go into. As I said, there's 42 stories now. Not everyone's got a happy ending.
Yeah.
Some do, um, but it's the roller coaster ride. So, what is the darkness? The darkness has so many faces. You can't really predict what the darkness is. It's going to be the final battle, so you have no choice but to keep going. Then he discovers he doesn't age, and that adds a new layer to it. And then in book for a second, let me count. Book 8, he discovers a completely new layer that turns around everything. It was actually a plot thing that I'd written in the first one, and I thought, no, that doesn't. I'm going to sort that because that doesn't sound right to me. It didn't sound right for it because it restricted the adventures rather than opened them.
Yeah.
So I put in a plot point. No one. It's one of them things where you're writing a story and you go, "Oh, I know how to fix that," and that will do this. So it set up a whole. So through the 43 stories so far, you get a whole twist and turn, different adventures. You don't have to read them in order, really.
Yeah.
You don't really have to read the books in order, but the first 4 are actually there because are down as a 4-part saga, mostly because when I started writing The Wheel of the Banshee, I had no idea who the characters were,
Yeah.
really. And the only way to do that was do a series of stories and learn and explore them. I had a vague memory of them, or a vague sort of description of them and what the personalities would be. But once you start writing, you know that they start going in different directions, and certain things fit and certain things that you thought would have fit
Yeah.
don't fit no more. And
Yeah.
then when you put the 4 of them together, you sort of have that 4-way dynamic for things. Um, but when I'd finished writing those stories, because the way I was so young and so naive. I thought, well, this will be a first season. This, if you were going to watch the first season of the Time Warriors, this is it, and
Yeah.
turned into 17 adventures, but
Wow.
sort of linked, but not 24 linked. It's almost like if you met somebody, say, "Do you remember that wedding we went to?" Oh, yeah. It doesn't take you out of the story, so you read the 4 books,
Yeah.
and there is an arc in it, obviously. Um, but by the time I actually finished them and went to try and publish them, I realized it was actually four volumes. So it was like, I think we've got 4 books here, so let's put them out and see what happens.
It just kept growing and growing.
That was just, and it did, yeah. As I said, with the one with the lizard man and the lighthouse, you sort of think, I know where it's going to end. Funny enough,
Yeah.
I know exactly how it's going to end, but I also know in that ending, it can restart into a new thing.
Yeah.
Um, but get there because there's you've got Vengeance, you've got Sasquatch Darklands coming, you've got Vengeance, you've got Genesis of the Veldrox. They have all, and Wheel of the Banshee. They're all still to come. But Vengeance, I sort of went and decided that would be the last book. And then it's not even, it's only partly written, and it's still going to be written because I need to get the other ones out of the way. Every time I think, oh no, I'll do Vengeance now and get it done, and go, but there's another story, and there's another story. And look at that, it's on Google, and that's where the wolves and stuff came in.
Yeah.
So there's still life in her yet.
So
Still life, yeah, and
in
yeah, go
terms
ahead.
of outlining and planning ahead, how much outlining do you do? And when you start something like the Time Warriors, do you plan all the way ahead? Do you know how it's going to end, or do you like some authors where they'll plan maybe a little bit and just see how it unfolds? What way do you approach it?
Um, for me, it's sort of I think I know what the ending's going to be until I start writing it, and then
Yeah,
things will change.
yeah,
Like the Wolves of Chernobyl, I actually didn't know how to end that, and where I was writing it, and I was sort of coming to the end of it, and I was going, "How am I going to finish this?" Because I don't want to say what it was or what exactly it involves. Just let's say there's wolves in it.
no spoilers.
Um, no spoilers, as River Song would say. Um, and then it just hit me while I was reading it, or not reading it, writing it, fucking reading it.
Well, I guess you
Um,
need to read it as you write it.
yeah, you've raised your, and do you know what? That's what I hate editing. I hate editing. But without spoiling it, it's the right ending for it. But it couldn't. But there's a few stories like that. I mean, the lighthouse one, I hadn't a clue. I knew what elements I had, and it was sort of like, how do I do that? And where are we going to go with it? In book one, you've got what do you call it? The Volux. No, sorry, book two, the Volux horror. That again, it was set Victorian London. I think everybody should do a Victorian London story, and you should have the fog, you should have the Thames, you should have
Yeah,
all the things. Remember Doctor Who: The Talons of Wang Chiang? Did you ever watch that?
I'm not too familiar with Doctor Who. It's something that I've always kind of thought about dipping my toe into. So my
Yeah,
knowledge on Doctor Who is very poor.
yeah. Do you see everything? Did you ever see it with Jack the Ripper and the police, not the foggy streets? I think you have to do it. It's like Cowboys and Indians. You have to have the Cowboys and Indians story too. But that one I hadn't a clue because it is part of the arc,
Yeah,
and they meet the main enemy, but they don't know who that is. And I just thought at the end, how am I gonna do this where they don't actually know who this is, and they're gonna come out of it and still not even realize they've met this person. And then it was literally the very end of the book, and I went, I know,
yeah,
chameleon net. So I just the Juggernaut's up there. It's got full of military stuff, full of special weapons, full of everything that Brian does not agree with. But they have chameleon nets, so it's almost like you put it. It's like Harry Potter's cloak. You put it on, and you look like somebody else to whoever's around you. So that was the way around that one. The sort
right.
of until book four when they finally move face to face. So yeah, it really depends. Some endings I know exactly. I mean, is Vengeance. I know exactly how that's going to end. I just need to get there.
Yeah,
That's a bit. And I remember doing a panel at the first Dublin Comic Con. It was myself and a few others, and they sort of asked that same question: Where do you start? And it's a bit like the Googles. No, you might see a Google advert. Or you'll picture a certain scene, or you'll come up with a character and you go, "Oh, how can I fit that in? What could be interesting?" You
yeah,
want to try and make it interesting, something different,
yeah,
rather than it's the same old, same old.
yeah,
But that's for me. That's what it is. A lot of the time I don't really know the ending.
yeah,
Um, but I mean, the character you think is going to go one place, and this has happened many a time where he suddenly goes in another place, and you realize that's actually a better
yeah.
road for that to take than the other one.
Sometimes the characters take over.
Yeah, and it is very true. People don't really, not that I'm sure they're worried about it, but it is true. The characters can take over and take you then on where it should be, and then it makes complete sense.
Yeah,
Whereas you didn't see that in the first place.
exactly.
But I think it's an interesting journey when you're writing a book because you literally don't know. You think you know what's going to happen, but you actually don't know
Yeah,
until it's done. And then you see that. But I mean, let's say the on the Wolves one, I think there's about seven stories in it. Wolves of Chernobyl actually turned out to be the 40th story by pure coincidence. Um, I think there's three of them. Three of them out of the seven, I wasn't sure how to end, but the other four, I had a sort of rough ending for them.
Yeah. Have
But
you
it's a
ever
journey you don't know till you start, really.
yeah, have you ever experienced writer's block? And if so, what do you do to kick yourself out of it?
So much, so much. I think, do you know what? I actually think that's partially why I just didn't really push it for a few years. I know life gets in the way and you're working and paying the bills and everything, but for me, writer's block, let's see, man, I wasn't that long ago. I really did have a severe bout of it. For me, I actually did an article, I run the website too. So as I said, I'm not an expert in anything. I just write stories, but I've
Yeah,
done a few writing tip articles. And one of them was to be how to beat writer's block. What
yeah,
I do is I'll go walking, and I can walk again. I can walk again. Um, and just have the headphones on, and it's everything runs through your head. It's a bit like that what we were talking about. If you're sleeping at night and that story's playing in your head, everything still plays in your head, no matter what you're doing. Even in the gym, even if you've headphones on, you're out
yeah.
for a walk. Um, Binge watch something was another one.
Mm.
Not that you're looking to copy or do anything.
But sometimes it could be a case
Um,
of you see something that wasn't great and you're like, you feel like you could have done something like that but better, and that maybe inspires you to like
oh,
spin off that
yeah,
and
yeah.
create your own thing.
For me, it was I want to be better than Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And that's where it already started. I want to have my legacy. So you've got Star Trek, Doctor Who. I want the Time Warriors in there as well
Yeah.
as a sort of, like I said, people enjoy. And it's not for. I always tell our ones, yeah, me and J.K. Rowling will be on the yachts together, having their cup of tea. But it's not. It's just I love it out there and to see people's reaction and get people reading because I think I know my son was trained to be a teacher, and I was saying, I'm like, he says, Daddy, like, people don't read anymore.
Yeah.
They're all sitting in their phones and social media and everything else. You go into a supermarket, and it's all celebrity autobiographies or
Yeah.
something like 50 Shades of Grey, it's something like that, which is it's a pity, I think. And then with libraries and stuff closing, it's taken away that sort of.
Yeah.
For me as a kid, I don't know if you were the same. Would you going to the library was a weekly thing and a big deal because you went and there's all these books. I think we've lost that a bit with social media
Yeah.
because kids have phone in the hand rather than thing. Even Kindle, I'm sort of dubious. I just like that. I like my comics in my hand. I like my books in my hand. I understand about recycling and saving the planet and all, but I'm sorry when I get these books in my hand, it's amazing. You
Yeah.
just go anywhere. So that's sort of my view on it.
Yeah.
Which may not be good, but
What authors have inspired your writing style?
uh, well, wasn't your woman that wrote 50 Shades of Grey? That's for sure, or Red, or whatever it was.
No, I was certain that was
um,
going to be it.
um, it's a joke, but isn't that a case of striking lucky? Even though you can't write, that annoys me as well. For me, well, the first one, Stephen King.
Yeah.
Um, Somebody once said to me, and I don't know why people get this impression, oh, you must be very well read. And I went, no, I grew up on the Hardy Boys, the Nancy Drew, the Three Investigators,
Yeah.
Doctor Who, Target, Novel Time, Star Trek, movie adaptations like Star Wars, all that sort of stuff. I couldn't name any of the big sci-fi people
Yeah.
as a kid. That was my world.
Yeah.
So Stephen King, obviously, because everything's so detailed
Yeah.
and I know he's got a terrible reputation for endings, which is why what I try to avoid. I want to give you an ending. If you're going to invest in the story, I want to give you an ending.
Yeah.
I want you to be on that journey. But for me, I think Salem's Lot sticks out for me.
Yeah.
Um,
I haven't read that one yet.
the bit,
I'm currently going
oh,
through
you haven't?
Stephen King's back catalogue. So in no particular order, I'm just picking up which one interests me at the time. So at the moment, I'm reading Four Past Midnight. I'm on the Langoliers. But
Oh yeah,
there's
yeah.
loads of his classics I haven't got around to yet, like Salem's Lot and Cujo and some of them.
Carey, is that one? Misery,
Yeah,
Carey, Misery, Thinner. But Salem's Lot in the middle of the book is the part where the vampires swarm the town and start picking people off. And there was part with the baby in the crib, and it was just the way it flowed
yeah,
from one scenario. No, that you just felt that everybody was being taken and lost in that thing, and it scared the life out of me. And that was a written
yeah.
page. I sort of did a homage to that in Book Five, Venom.
Right.
Um, for me, because that stuff does stick with you, and you do try and emulate. I like our job as writers is to paint pictures with words. If if you read my stuff and you can't see what I see, then I haven't done my job right.
Yeah,
But if you see it and you can say to me, people, I don't blow my own trumpet or anything, but few people have said, yeah, I saw exactly what. No, because in the early days, you're looking feedback and you go, what did you think about this? What did you think about that? Did you get what it meant by such and such?
yeah,
And I'll go, well, yeah. So far it's been, yeah. But if I said, if we don't paint the picture with the words, then I wouldn't, if Stephen King hadn't done that, I wouldn't be sitting trying to emulate that in Venom and paying homage to
yeah.
it. um, I I mean, you see it on YouTube, 10 tips from Stephen King. And no offense to wee Stephen, right? He'll say to you, yes, you do 6 pages a day and they all have to be clean pages.
No,
I barely have time to get to work and
no.
get home and get to the gym. And
Yeah,
I go, 6 pages, that's really hard. Sorry for him.
yeah,
There's loads of money sitting at the table. And I think that's the only drawback. That, but I just thought when he said that, I just bust out laughing. I said, "Son, you're lucky I get one a day.
yeah.
That's rate."
And
Um,
I always find
excuse me.
my first draft is always really rough. It's not very clean at all. It's basically for my eyes only. And I'm just
Yeah,
laying out the story, getting it all structured, and then clean it up after that. So, because I've heard him say that his first drafts are usually very clean, and with me, it's the opposite. They're very, very rough because I'm just getting the
but that's
important
why.
bits out there and stuff.
Yeah, but that's why, Steve, because me and you're skint, and he's loaded.
That's it. Yeah.
That's why we can all sit and do 6 minutes. I said, it's a bit like the PTs on Instagram and all. Yes, get this body in 6 weeks. And I says, but you live in the gym. Of course, you're going to do that. I
Oh,
might work in 7 hours. I
yeah,
don't. If I was working in the gym for 7 hours, you'd be all right. But but you know what? It's sort of like, as I said earlier, it won't let you sit, so you're going to do it, and you're going to do it, and you're going to fit it in. It's like when they say you make time for training,
yeah.
you make time for your writing at the end of the day, even if it is the 4 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, absolutely.
Um,
So,
but the
how many kind of words a day would you do if you're working on a project? What do you like
you
have a
know,
goal that you would say like I'm going to try and reach this amount of words a day, or do you just
no,
no?
I'm just straight in. I write it's sort of I write, and I'll stop when I stop. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I
I
used to
rarely
I used to do like a routine where it's like okay, every day I'm going to get this amount of words done, but now it's just like okay,
yeah.
I've this block of time, I'll just see what I can get done in that time.
Yeah, that's the way I do it. I remember Jeffrey Archer years ago. I thought he was dead, and he turned up on TV the other day. Um, said, "Oh no, I write for 2 hours in the morning, then I go swimming, and then I'll come back and write for an hour, 2 hours, then I'll do this, and then write for an hour, 2 hours." That to me, I used to sit and think to myself, that's just not.
Yeah,
Either he's telling fibs or literally somebody's nailing him to that chair and said, "Don't get
yeah,
off it for 2 hours."
yeah,
Because I can't say to you, I'm gonna write for half an hour here to kill time.
yeah,
I've seen me write Zombie Blues 1, for example, the Irony Zombie. It's only about 7 pages long,
yeah,
and that sat me one night, and I wrote it all in one night. But then there's other hours, are there other days I'll write. Last week wasn't a prime example. Only got about 2 paragraphs done
Yeah. But
because
sure,
I
I
wasn't I
find
wasn't
like
meant.
once it's progress in the right direction, you know?
Yeah, there's a guy on Instagram. I can't remember his name. He's actually very good, and he says if you do 20 minutes a day, and I'm sort of linking it into exercises, but if you do 15 minutes of exercise a day, last night I couldn't be bothered going to the gym, but I did, and I did an hour. I
Yeah,
don't feel it did anything, but I know it did. But it's the same with writing. If you get 20 minutes a day done,
yeah.
happy days.
I find
Because I know for me, it doesn't last 20 minutes, it's always longer.
yeah. It's
If
like
you're doing that
anything,
every day,
consistency is key with all these things.
yeah, that, you know what, that's the thing. That's what they told me at the gym.
Yeah. But it is though, like,
Consistency, it is.
because if you
It is.
don't, in terms of writing or exercise, if you've left it or neglected it a week, it's kind of hard to get back into it. So if you just even do
Yeah.
10, 20 minutes a day just to keep the momentum going, like it can
Keep
be
the
enough.
flow. Yeah. Or sometimes even what I do is I'll go back over what I've written and edit it
Yeah.
and
So
add in bits that take
how many
bits out.
drafts would you typically do?
I try to go no more than two.
Right.
And the reason for that is, um, again, this is just my situation. I can't afford. When I was first starting out, there were all editors this and editors that, and I contacted a few, and they went, "Yeah, it'd be £2,000, please," and they went and a jar of coffee. I was, "I swinging that one, you're not getting 2 grand to me,"
Yeah.
because I actually saw somebody local who did do that, and it was shocking. I was actually, and I was in Salem Waterstones. And
Yeah.
I'm looking, reading this, going, who, what? There was like words triplicated, whole paragraphs out of sync. I just thought he paid somebody 2 grand for that. So do you know what? I sort of go by the old adage: if you don't do it yourself, what is it? You don't do it yourself, it'll never do. Or do it yourself if you want it done right. So I learned
Yeah.
how to do editing, and I'm not perfect by any means. So I have another friend of mine, Stephen, who looks after what I've edited, so to
Yeah.
sort of get become word blind and stuff.
I
Um,
I have
but usually go to.
I have Nicola to do proofreading and editing for me, so I at least get another
Yeah,
pair of eyes on it and um,
yeah,
stuff like that. Someone asked to
but
be,
you need it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, you
But
can't,
you so need it.
if you're working on these things in isolation, you can
Yeah.
just be blind to some of the stuff that might be in there, like some of the flaws. So, I always say, even if you can't hire someone, you don't have that kind of money, just show it to as many people as you can, get their feedback.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. 100%. Now I've done that as well, and I never heard anything back because I never barred their backside.
Yeah,
But it's 100% because I remember getting the first book and paperback and going, I was all happy days, great. No, it's a big thrill to see your stuff in excuse me, in physical form.
yeah,
But I opened it, I was flicking through it, and I swear to God, it's not word of a lie. There was one word, the word was years, and I
yeah.
had spelled it YARS, and it was almost as if it was waving out of the page. And I was, oh.
Oh,
So
yeah,
thankfully, technology being what it is, it's just a matter of putting it in, re-uploading the KDP or wherever you
yeah,
do it, and then it's done in 24 hours. That's the good thing about these days. Any mistakes, you can pick them and correct them very quickly.
yeah. Because I've been there
But you
myself
so
where I'm reading the physical thing in my hand, it's all done, and I'm like, oh, there's a
yeah,
letter missing there.
yeah, and there's some you sort of like, should I, or is there a full stop missing, for example?
Yeah,
Do I really need to do that? Do I really need to go all this trouble? And I remember at the time when I had an agent, there's only one agent in Northern Ireland. He was having a meeting with a publishing company, and they were saying, "Oh, we don't mind typos. Typos are grand." And he rang me. He says, "What do you think of that?" And I says, "Well, if I bought a kettle off him and I plugged it in and exploded, I'd be bringing it back and saying, 'Can I have a proper kettle?'" So I think if it's a product, if you're going to put the time and effort, and I don't think people realize just how much time and effort actually goes into putting together a book like ours.
yeah,
Um, you're trying to give them the best product that you can because you want them to come back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, and listen, mistakes happen. I know there's really famous books out there that have typos in them, but I try and iron out as many as possible, and then somebody else come behind me and wipe other things out.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, that's just my view on it.
I've
I
read
think if we're gonna do a product, it has to be as good as possible.
yeah, I've read some professional stuff that have had a few typos in it. But one thing I
Mm,
find is when you're reading something and you do find a mistake or a typo or a misspelling, it can take out the story for a second. So you kind of want to avoid
mhm.
that.
Yeah, 100%. Because you start going, and then you stop and you go, "Oh, hang on, this is a spell mistake."
Yeah,
And it does. You're right. This does derail you a wee bit. But I find out even when I'm doing it with my stuff, and I go, "Oh," but my fingers are quicker than my brain, so they don't really communicate well. There's certain words, no matter how often I like the word change is CHANGE.
yeah.
Every time I type that, it's CHNAGE.
I'm like that with the
But it's
word
just
chief. I always misspell it, no matter how much
yeah,
practice I put in.
yeah.
I always
Or
mix it
or
around.
it or it's not as it's not.
Yeah,
It turns into it's not. I go,
yeah,
and it's but I mean, it's just because it is that drive in the story you're typing away, and it is. I don't really worry about typos in the first bit as long as I get the story out because it'll all be corrected afterwards.
yeah.
But it's just it's funny.
My first draft, I don't worry too much about that because I want to just keep the momentum going,
Yeah,
and especially pages with lots of
yeah,
dialogue where you're going back and forth with characters. You want to,
yeah,
keep in the flow and not worry about every little detail and stuff like that. And then second draft is really adding in more detail and cleaning it all up and stuff. And I typically do
yeah.
three. I find three is where what I like, and the third draft is really just sharpening everything up as much as possible.
Mm. Yeah, well, suppose when I say I've two drafts, this was the third one would be said the same would be the third one then, really,
Yeah,
because he would put wrong his eyes over it and sort of go take. I just tell him to crack whatever he wants and don't be taking anything out until he goes burst. But he usually does a good job on it, so it's as good as we can get. Given as I was going to form a company called no a publishing company called Skint because we're on a budget of zero here.
yeah,
And there's people paying 2,000 for editors. There's people paying hundreds for covers,
yeah,
and my covers they're not. The first four books, the covers actually cost me $100 each.
yeah,
Two of them I would actually change. But my covers ever since have been done by friends
yeah,
at a cheap rate,
yeah.
which is great. And with technology and stuff now, I think the Wolves of Chernobyl cover is probably the best so far
Yeah, I can't
because
actually overstate how much a good cover can help your book. And I've always been
yeah,
very lucky in that way where I've had great artists work on the covers. And, a lot of times people come up to me in conventions, go, oh, I noticed the cover, and they pick it up and they start talking about it. So,
mhm.
absolutely, a great cover can really help you out.
And for me, there's always another cover in mind with the elements of the books, but I don't get it because I don't have access to that sort of artistry
Yeah,
where it could be even better. So, but I think for what I've produced so far, I'd say two two of the covers I would replace, but I'm quite happy with what the guys have done.
yeah,
Because it's quite striking. The book two, Volok's Horror, I just love that
yeah.
because it's the one with the outline of Jack the Ripper and the blood in the street and the foggy and the earth's reflected in the blood on the ground.
Yeah, I'm actually
I
looking
just
at
love
it
that
right
cover.
now.
Always help.
I'm actually looking at that
Oh
right
yeah.
now. Yeah, it's going to be on screen.
Oh cool. Please buy people. But that's just because for me, yes, it could be better, but for me that's what the story's about. It's what is that Jack the Ripper?
Yeah, that's the
Or
thing. Like,
is it not?
your cover has to reflect what the book is. So once it suits the
Yeah,
book,
you're
or
in.
yeah, or the cover can just set the tone and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't always have to be over
Yeah,
elaborate, but you know, once it
yeah.
suits what you're
It's
doing.
when you're doing something like if it's a full novel, usually you can get away with one image or whatever. But if it's an anthology, like the Wolves, only the dead get off at Kimling, has got an alien and a train on the front.
Yeah.
What is that? What is that? I know what that is, but you have to read the book to find out.
Yeah.
But they're not actually in the same story, if that makes sense. So it's
Yeah.
you've got the ghost, you've got the ghost train legend of the train at Kimling, the deserted train station,
Yeah.
and then you've got the Greys, and you sort of, if you looked at the book cover, you'd sort of think, oh, aliens on a train. Of course, kind of, but not what you're expecting. And
Right.
that's what I also like. You're not going to expect
Yeah.
like the wolves one for me when I look at it, it's very, 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 very. I can't even speak. The fairy tale um, feeling from that, and there is a couple of stories which are one of them is actually kind of fairy tale, but the wolves. Um, for me, werewolves have always sort of attracted me anyway, along with vampires.
Right.
But there's something about that cover that speaks about the book for me.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's the not the first time it's I felt like that, but really, I think this could be the book. If somebody was passing it and looked at it and went, "Oh, we might take a second to lift this up."
Yeah. So where should new readers begin with your books? If they want to start reading Owen Quinn, where would you recommend they start?
First four,
Yeah.
first four, because it's got that was me exploring. That was me setting the universe of the Time Warriors. And what that means, I mean, we talked about the come to Earth. So you've got themes of immigration, um, hiding away who you are. Racism will come up, but it's sort of that integration into another society.
Yeah.
And we've got all this immigration going on and all this tension and stuff. So you're sort of like, well, we're not going to tell you who we are. We're just going to live among you because we're waiting on this darkness coming,
Yeah.
sort of thing. So it's that secret more than anything else. Um, but I think the first four really set you up for everything else that's coming
Yeah.
from Venom onwards. Um, there's some of my really favorite stories are in the first four. Experiment Four, the Volok's Horror, Return to Eden, um, Legacy,
Yeah.
Summer's End. Well, there's one we'll never mention Summer's End. It's based on it's set at Halloween, but in Celtic times when you had druids and stuff. So you
Fantastic.
sort of that the aliens is going to come in, but it's going to be an alien you've met before in one of the other stories. They're part of the big bads, but it's sort of like you do a bit of research and you can find something. You have a story, you do a bit of research, and you find something that would
Yeah.
fit that story as well as, and just the imagery of these. The Mantara are centaur-like tarantulas.
Awesome.
Um,
That
they're,
sounds
they're,
cool.
they're, there's tarantulas that say the body is a tarantula size of a horse. The torso is like a bodybuilder,
Do you know
but
what? That
if
is
it was
absolutely
if
horrifying.
it was but do you know what? And it was, and to be honest with you, I have to shout out to Stephen. He was the first one to come close to, because nobody could get that in their heads. Even when I sent the pictures, this is a trans's body. This is a bodybuilder. Cover the bodybuilder in her and give him a spider sort of alien, freaky, creepy face.
Mm.
Um, but Montara is actually the best example of um, the monsters coming to eat you, but
Yeah.
why? So you're going to find there's a whole backstory to the Montara. But I just think that image of the Celts, if you think Braveheart and you think the scene out of, remember Kevin Costner's Prince of Thieves,
Yeah.
when the Celts burned down the village in Sherwood Forest.
I remember that. Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's secret. Everybody runs that movie down, but I just love that movie. I think
I
that
haven't
is
seen it
one
in
of the
years, but
best sequences.
I remember loving it, and I haven't seen it in a long
Yeah.
time. I'd be interested to watch it again to
Wow.
see how it holds up.
I think it's, do you know what? See, now I've watched interviews with Alan Rickman about the script and stuff. I can see what they're talking about, and I can see when I watched the movie, there was supposed to be a huge element of magic, which is
Oh,
there
was
in
there?
Ripples. But yeah, oh yeah, like you've got the witch,
Yeah,
and Morgan Freeman, as I can't remember his name, Azim. Um, and when him and the witch meet, she says the painted man, he goes the witch. So there was that whole thing of him and her having this dreaming of each other. And then in the fire in the Sherwood Forest, when Robin Hood fell into the flames, it was he died. Do you remember there was a TV series with Michael Praed and Jason Connery? He died in the flames, but her and the hunter brought him back
yeah,
to rescue England. So there's the whole magic thing was there, but it's not there. Um,
yeah,
but I still like it because that sequence is so good. The Celts were so vicious,
yeah,
and Alan Rickman's just perfect at it. So you're trying to get that sort of the Celts who are mad, but had a real connection to the earth and nature and everything, like the Native American Indians. That whole thing about nature and everything's connected, and the veil falls between the realities of Halloween
yeah,
when the dead walk the earth. All that was, for me, when I do the story, that actually happened. We have lost that ability, which is later explored in the new book as well,
yeah,
of things that we can't do anymore. We've lost art of writing, but we've lost a lot more
yeah.
on top of that. But you got just gets explored through the different stories. Um, I don't know where I was going with that, but I was getting very excited when I was talking about Somerset because it is that you would love. I think that's a story you would love to see on screen how to do it, and now with technology, um, there's no holds barred. You
Yeah,
can do anything now.
yeah,
So
pretty
that would be
much.
perfect. So the Celts smashing into the Montara. Ooh, and the Montara will have the old style, like the not the crossbows, the thing that wraps around your legs, the bowler, a tombola or something.
Oh, yeah, I can't remember the name, but I know the thing
I
you're talking about.
I
Yeah,
can never remember. See, that's another thing I do when I'm writing. I have to look up the names of things. Go right. Oh, that's what that's called. I know what it is, but can't remember what you call it.
what's
So
the
that's the sort of weapons because they're harvesting humans.
what's the
So you don't want
what's the strangest thing you've ever had to Google for a story? For
to.
me, it was I once had to Google do spiders blink?
Oh, do you know what? It's actually in the recent book. What was it? Yeah, it was how many hours is Russia? What's the time difference between Russia and Florida, Louisiana?
Yeah,
And I can't remember, did I get it right or wrong? I
yeah,
know it's 9 hours, but if I can't remember, was it 9 hours in the past or 9 hours in the future?
yeah.
Because that was now an integral part of the lighthouse story. And I went, oh,
Right.
I don't know what is the time zone difference. That was one. The other one was oh, it was about caterpillars. And don't ask me what, I can't remember. It's
Oh
something to
man,
do with caterpillars in their lives.
I'm intrigued with
And
that
it, but
one.
is but isn't it the things you don't think of until you're writing them and you go, oh, I have to go and look at this and
Yeah,
what was that? I had the Celts. I said, what do you call Celtic clothes?
yeah,
And if there isn't really a name for them. Just thought, and then Ford car. What was the car in 1935? What was the most popular car in 1935? That was another one.
yeah,
Um, but it's all that sort of. It's like wee details but you need those to sort of get the flavor of the period.
yeah,
Or
yeah. I remember once
if you're doing something,
I was writing a scene
yeah,
set like years ago, and then I was writing
uh,
about something, and then I just it just hit me. It was like, did that exist back then? I'm not sure. I had to
yeah,
double check, and then
yeah,
turns out it didn't, and I had to go back and change it.
yeah. Summer's End actually was like a. It was a lot of research
Yeah,
to find how they lived, what their houses were like, um, what what was the status of women? Were women equal to men at that time period and stuff? The other one I just remember was Trinity. That had research because they go back again. It's not Celtic times, but it's old Ireland.
yeah,
Um, there's another one where they go to the famine, but it was getting the details of the eras more than anything else. Trinity was a bit. special because they meet somebody who's actually a historical figure. So it had to be exactly. And again, well, funny on that one, the figure they meet. When I researched, I went, those details actually fit and enhance the story
Yeah,
of his background. And I hadn't realized. I knew who it was, but I never knew the history. Only a brief thing. But when you actually go into the details of his life, you suddenly realize he had visions of
yeah,
being rescued and going home, and you could see the ship. Oh, there's a story sitting right there.
yeah,
So he's like, right, let's go. It's literally written for you
yeah.
to do it.
So, Owen, where can people find you if they're looking for your work? They want to pick up one of your books. Where would you recommend
Um,
they go?
we go to Amazon dot com dot uk, wherever they are. That's where they are at the minute. I am looking into seeing, is there a way to do it from the website itself. So if, say, you ordered one tomorrow, I'll order it up, get it sent it out to you.
Yeah. What's the
But
name
at
of the
the minute,
website?
it's Amazon. Look, the website is Time Warriors and Beyond,
Right. I'll have
and
all that in
Beyond
the description.
includes Zombie Blues.
I'll put all that in the description so people can go check those
Yeah.
out.
Oh, there's also three Zombie Blues books, and the cover of book three is my favorite of those three as well.
Zombie Blues looks like a very interesting premise. That's one I've seen you post up about. Can you tell people a little
Yeah,
bit about that?
yeah. So, do you know what? Again, do you know when we're talking about inspiration? In the very first Walking Dead episode, which I just love Walking Dead, I love it. I always wondered why Morgan's wife remembered to go to her house and knew how to turn a handle.
Yeah.
I thought that's kind of interesting. And then the wee girl at the very start that he shoots, no, is a zombie, but knows to pick up the bunny rabbit. Now I know it's done to misdirect the audience, but I thought, what if the person that you were is still there?
So
You're being controlled,
a little bit of yourself is still in there.
yeah, and you're telling me, the reader, what it's like as a zombie, but from your life experiences. So you've got the kidney transplant zombie. He's just had a kidney transplant, fantastic. Then he becomes a zombie because the apocalypse breaks out. What does that mean for him? And he's more mortified by the fact he's got a catheter stuck in him, and he's
Right.
naked, and has to wander the street. You've got cross dresser zombie who finally has been dressing as a woman for years, and finally decides to come out, goes into the town, gets into a change room, and finally does it, is about to reveal himself to the world, and he gets bitten by a zombie. And that's sort of a tale like, don't leave things, just go and do them, sort of thing.
Right.
Um, you've got don't call me Andy zombie. Don't call me Andy zombie.
Is that
Thinks the
a
end of Toy Story
Toy
3 was the
Story?
worst horror film ever. Yeah, because he gave all his toys away.
Yeah.
What? No, you don't do that sort of thing.
What was he
And
thinking?
then yeah, I know, but I'm just going, no, my stuff stays. I'm sorry, it's going to nobody. And then you have dog lover zombie. So you love dogs
Nice.
as human. What does that mean as a zombie? It means you love to eat them, which is completely against your nature. So
Right.
they're telling you all these things. Don't do this. This is what life's all about. So it's just something different. Something, if it works, it works. I mean, three zombie books at the minute, it could go for a four because there's always something in life that you can talk about, like photography, photographic zombie. Who
Yeah.
was a photographer and realizes when somebody dies, you've only so many photo. You want all these photographs, and then like the person's life, there's only so many.
Yeah.
It's ephemeral.
So
So it's sort of things like that.
there's so much you could do with that premise.
Yeah, I actually nearly got it filmed.
Wow.
I'm
Yeah.
really disappointed in it didn't. I sent the first one to a girl I was working with. She is a makeup artist who specializes in zombies, but when Game of Thrones came over, they all get kicked out of the industry, and so she was working in a contact center.
Right.
Um, and she had friends one of the students' film. I can't even think of the term. The students making their own movies, And I thought, well, I showed her it, and she says, that's a very simple concept. And no, there's not much to it. It's just dressing somebody up as a zombie and telling that story.
Yeah, nothing like
But it never really got off the ground, I think.
right.
I don't know, because of resourcing and people trying to take control. Seriously, no personalities just didn't clash.
Yeah,
I wasn't involved, so it wasn't my personality.
you're right.
I'd have had it done and dusted in 10 minutes. So there you go. Let's go, YouTube. Here we go.
Yeah,
Film festivals. Here we go. But that's the closest, and the other closest it came to being was in comic strip form.
yeah,
Um, Time Warriors almost became a comic strip, but again, there was behind the scenes clashes and things fell apart.
yeah,
And the script's still there. The script actually turned into book 8, the Bellbridge Mystery,
yeah,
because that it was always called the Bellbridge Mystery, but it was different setting. And I went, this is too good to sort of leave on the shelf, so I just rewrote it
yeah.
and changed the locality, and away we went. And it's got one of the most fun sequences again, like Summer's End, that I would love to see filmed.
Fantastic.
It's just a bit like, do you remember the end of Blazing Saddles, where everybody just goes for a massive free for all?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of the tone of it.
That sort of
There's going to be
thing.
a massive free for all at the time you go. Bit like Avengers Infinity, we're all fighting in Wakanda. It's that scale
Yeah,
of battle.
just big
Yeah,
epic.
yeah. You just keep going, and you just keep hoping the right person's going to see it, and everything sort of clicks in place.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for jumping on today, Owen. It's been a great chat. We will have
Well, grand.
all the links to your work in the description. I highly recommend people go check those out. And if you like listening to this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll have something fun up again next week, hopefully. And yeah, great chatting to you, Owen. Thanks a million.
Cheers, Fat Stephen. Very much appreciated. Good
Cheers.
luck. Talk to you soon in Dublin when we're up in March.
Yeah, yeah. The next con I'm going to be at is going to be Dundalk.
Do you know what? I was actually reading about that today.
There you
They're
go.
going to be announcing the guests, and the tickets is flying out.
There you go. If you're about, give us a shout.
It's not that far away from me, to be honest with you, because I from Newry. That's where I grew up, really in Newry. So it's
Yeah,
only across the border. Spent many a night in the bars in Dundalk, let me tell you. Fun
fantastic.
times.
So I might see you at that one. Cheers,
Yeah,
Owen.
definitely.
Take it easy.
All right, take care. Good luck. Thank you, everyone. Bye.